me, Aligi, and we are Super Enchanterium sisters. I love pizza, I love pasta, I love JoJo Part 5, I love Wings Club. All these things are Italian. I love my Italian boyfriend. So we also like Mario. And in celebration of the Super Mario Bros. Movie coming out, we are making a Mario themed doll. Maria. A female Mario reimagined to be a fashionable schoolgirl. Or plumber. Fashionable plumber schoolgirl. We hope you enjoy. And now, let's go!
I'm gonna kick off this outfit with a custom vinyl print. Ever since I got the heat press, I need to justify buying it, so for this outfit I decided to do a golden star print. Weeding it was a nightmare, because not only did I have to weed every star on the inside, I had to make sure the eyes of the stars stay in place. This is the third piece I'm weeding, and by this time I got myself into a sort of rhythm where I would peel a bit with the hook and pulled with the tweezers while making sure the eyes are held down with the hook. I did have to reposition a bunch of these manually. For some reason, the Cricut always leaves just a tiny bit uncut. After that, the big satisfying peel reveals the whole print. I also added an outline of the pattern piece this goes on. Since I'm mimicking Mario's outfit and this goes on the blouse, I pre-pressed some red fabric to get all the wrinkles out and make sure there's no dust.
Oh, she's hot.
No shit, Sherlock! I put the weeded design on, and because Elna didn't come with a counter, I am the counter.
11. Almost forgot what's after 10. 13.
I checked after about 15 seconds and decided to give it a bit more time.
Maybe I should do it from the back. I am a noob.
Pressing it from the back seems to be working better.
Ah, so cute! It's glorious.
I pressed some more fabric for the other parts too and added their designs. I think pressing from the back works so well because the heating actually only happens from the top part of the press.
Do a flip. She clicks sometimes, you know, like a zombie, but that's okay. We love her anyway.
Even though it's out of focus, I think it's pretty clear we love Elna in this house. Because I did sort of an oopsie and didn't realize that I had two different colors of fabric, I now had to piece the front of my shirt with another scrap, so I'm measuring that out.
You can kind of tell the difference between the colors, but it's not too much. And the fabric is so similar, I didn't notice this before, that's why this happened. Stitch them together and then cut this out. Okay, so the two fabrics have turned out to be a little bit more different than I thought. I think I'm gonna add button detail. I know that there needs to be a centimeter of space here because that's how I cut it. So I'm just gonna top stitch it and add some buttons on it and call it a feature. Quick pattern rundown. This is what my front looks like. You can embellish it as much as you like. Then I have two back pieces. Then I have two sleeves. I added these cords on them, which is optional. You don't have to do that. And I have my cuffs. Because I'm sewing with red fabric, I decided to do the half and half cuff where I have some lining and I finished the edges because the lining is just a mess. And I have some bias tape, which is cut at the 45-degree angle to be stretchy to finish the neckline.
Since I'm explaining this in such detail, you know that this pattern is available on Enchanterium.com. I first gathered the sleeves at the wrist by sewing two straight parallel stitches with the longest stitch available on my machine. I then pull on the bobbin or bottom threads until the length matches with the length of the cuff. I stitch them right sides together and I top stitch the seam allowance towards the cuff. I only attach the red parts together for a nicer finish, but you can fold the cuff in half first and stitch it together that way. I next hem the back pieces as this shirt has a peekaboo in the back. When that's ready, I stitch the backs to the front and press the shoulder seams open. To finish the neckline, I'm using bias tape, which I finished one side of. I'm not sure if people do that, but mine is in 3 sections. I leave a bit of a tail for now and place the tape right sides together along the neckline with the raw edge of the tape. You want to stretch the tape a bit, but avoid stretching the neckline. I will stitch along the tape right sides together, and after that's done, I can trim it to about 1 centimeter past the neckline edge. I will now flip the finished edge of the tape to the inside of the shirt. I first fold in the little tail that we left on the side, and then fold the tape onto itself. I pin that in place and stitch about 2 millimeters away from the bottom edge of the tape. I'm obsessed with adding these little tags onto every garment I make, so I did that while I was sewing the tape. Now let's add the sleeves. I'm simply putting them right sides together to the armholes, and since this is a drop shoulder style shirt, it's just a straight line. We love a low effort queen. We can now close the side seams going from the wrist to the side. Now this step is a little tricky because we have to flip the cuff onto itself on the wrong side and stitch the edge to the seam allowance. Because it's so small, it's kind of hard to do, but it makes for a way nicer finish than sewing the cuff while folded. I simply and very uglily tuck it down by hand. The last seam that's left is the bottom hem, and we can add our snap button in the back. There's about a 1 cm overlap, so we can add any type of closure that you want there, but since I have this set of snap buttons, I'm just going to use one. I always struggle to remember which parts go together, but the button goes with like the female part, and that has their own set of tools, and the kind of male piece has like a different male piece that goes in the back of it, and I'm regretting that analogy right now. Sorry.
Almost right. I think that with the snap, it's done.
For our Mario Go, we had a few options, but in the end we decided to use a Mirai head in tea skin color. I worked with this sculpt many times, so it should be easy to paint. This is a Chaos head, which means that is a B-grade product that the company didn't want to sell with a full doll for a full price. I cut the eyes when the head is slightly warmed up. In a normal temperature it's too stiff, and when it's super hot then it's too flexible to cut a precise line. After 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear Sealant, I can start drawing the face up. I'm using a light brown watercolor pencil to make a general shape of the eyes, creases above the eye, eyebrows, and corners of the lips. On the same layer, I managed to add more color to the inner corners of the eyes and outer corners of the eyebrows. I thought that she could be a mix of natural and innocent with fun and cute. So I'm using a lot of browns, but also I added stars to make it more unique. I'm kind of bored with usual face-ups like just eyes and lips painted. I want more creative projects, even if it's just a few stars on the cheeks. I'm adding blushing and shading so the face looks more 3D and full of life. On the 3rd or 4th layer, I start to be confident enough to use black watercolor pencil. I'm doing a gradient from black to brown to make the eyes look soft and natural. I chose a very delicate peach color for the lips and carefully apply it with a Q-tip and a eyelash applicator. This is actually my very last one. I love adding pastels using these, so I definitely have to buy the next box. Using a lot of browns doesn't mean we can let the whole look be boring. I'm adding colors to the stars, more chalk pastels as an eyeshadow, and a red gradient on the eyes and eyelashes. The eyelashes are adding so much life and detail to this look. I really love them. Now, my favorite part, detailing the look by adding white paint as a highlight to the brows, eye creases, eyelashes, and corners of the lips. On darker skin tones, I like to tone down the white lines with a bit of pastel so the effect doesn't look too cartoony. Last step is to add shiny Pearl powder and the face is ready.
Mario wears overalls, but I already made overalls for Sam from Totally Spice. So here's some prototypes of an overall dress. The first one that I'm showing is fine, the previous one was nasty, and the one that's on the doll, I don't know if it looks like something, but that's the one we're going to make. I'm going to cut it out of some denim to be true to the original. I also added a decorative strap with Super Mario Girls as a nod to original series Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros.
This sounds a bit crooked, but let's try not to focus on that.
There's a lot of pieces and it's quite complex pattern, so I don't think anyone's going to have any fun making it, but I'll share it on Enchanterium.com just in case. I'm starting by doing all of the darts, and there's a lot of darts in this one. Some of the darts are just triangles, some of them are diamonds, because some of the pieces are in pieces. So I did the darts and then I reconnect every piece that's not one piece. So the front lining, I connect the top and the bottom. Then for the back, I connect the bottom back pieces together, leaving some space for the stand. And then when they're connected, I connect the top and bottom of the back pieces together, both for the main and the lining. After that's done, I'm adding a flounce, which is optional. Mine is like a half circle shape, so I'm adding those to the bottom of the front and back. And to the lining, I'm adding this cute tulle with some stars, which I will gather appropriately to fit the pieces. Next, I am joining the front and the back for both lining and the main along one of the side seams, making sure I get a mirror image between main and the lining. I will then add a decorative belt, which I just made by flipping under the two long edges of a strip and just top stitching it down. I think the belt adds a really nice detail, and with the whole design of this doll, I'm trying to make sure that the design is busy enough to look professionally made, I guess. Of course, where there is a belt, there needs to be belt loops, so I'm adding them just now. Alex popped by to discuss some face-up details with me.
Taka naturalna będzie lepsza, co? Bez make-upu.
Nie wiem, znasz hydraulika, który używa dużo make-upu? Ja znam! Mercury Stardust.
After debating with Alex and top stitching the belt loops, I'm ready to move on to the invisible zipper that I made myself put into the curved side of the dress.
Mogłoby się to samo przerobić.
I actually go full in depth on how to do an invisible zipper in a dress, only in the back, but it's the same thing, in the Clover video, so if you're in the need of a fuller tutorial, just go there. I'm not gonna go in depth in this one, but I also recommend checking out a tutorial by Made to Sew, which is wonderful.
Okay, well, less painful than I remembered it, but I think I did it. Would you like to admire the lining up of the waistband? Here, admire it from up close.
I was feeling very proud of myself, okay? Now that we have the zipper, it's time to join the lining with the main piece. I trimmed the zipper a bit to make sure that it's not a bother, but before I connect the lining, it's time to make the straps. I just did them this spaghetti strap way, and I guess where they should go in the back. I actually don't like the placement, so I suggest you do it differently than me, if you are brave enough to attempt this dress. But anyway, I'm sandwiching the straps between the lining and the main piece, and stitching along the top edge. After a quick turn, it seems to be looking alright. So I attached the lining to the zipper, which, if you're also going to attempt this, add some more seam allowance if you're doing the zipper. We are almost done. I just need to join the remaining piece of the back for both lining and the main, which is pretty easy. You just have to come up all the way from the hem to the zipper and then do the lining separately. And we can flip everything around, pull everything out nicely, and then remember that you didn't trim the corners, so you flip it back.
This corner, out. This corner, out. I have an irrational fear, or maybe rational, of cutting on fabric that I don't see underneath.
I ironed everything out, top stitched the top edge to make sure it stays, and I think we're done.
So I think I'm gonna style it with one of the buckles down, like this, just to show off more of the star print. But yeah, it's really cute. The whole outfit is just chef's kiss.
Since Mario's trousers go all the way to his ankles, I wanted to extend something that would be dark and navy all the way throughout the leg, so I decided to do some tights. But to make sure that the doll doesn't get stained, I am making nude tights first to put as a sort of protection layer between the actual tights and the vinyl. I'm using actual human tights to do this, and I'm using a pattern that I will link below. Sewing this fabric is incredibly annoying because it's not meant to be sewn. It's really thin, but I make do by either sewing next to a paper pattern, which helps to stabilize the fabric a little bit, although I don't know how that works, or I'm stitching through like very thin paper and then I have to tear it out, which is annoying because it stays in the zigzaggy stitch, but it makes sewing it really easy. I also made the same pattern but smaller from some navy blue fishnets. They're so small because I wanted to make sure that the eyes actually stretch out and are as big as possible when on the doll. I was worried if I would be able to put them on, but with some persuasion it went pretty smoothly, even though the nude tights were adding a bit of friction.
For her hair, I'm using a blend of two synthetic fibers, light brown nylon and dark brown kanekalon. I'm preparing wefts by gluing the ends to the plastic sheet, and while it's drying, let's make a wig cap. I'm using a beige stretchy fabric, and with a protective layer of plastic wrap under it, I can start pouring the glue. My favorite method is recently to use fingers. After 3 layers of glue and a lot of waiting for them to dry, I can free the head from this weird helmet. I didn't have much of these fibers, so I had to cut it into smaller pieces. And one of the layers is made from loose hair, because I panicked that I don't have enough hair for the whole head. And I was right, I used it all, because smart doll heads are huge. I prepared parting wefts of camera and glued them close to each other on the top of the head. There are places where the layer of hair is thinner, but overall the wig turned out pretty nice. I think I'm getting better at this with every project. Now let's style it. First I'm cutting the bangs, very carefully not to cut too short. Then I'm cutting the rest, first to do the right length, and then thinning the lower layers with thinning scissors. I leave the upper layer untouched because thinning can damage the hair and I want a healthy look. I can now curl her hair. The only problem was that the nylon and kanekalon that I used were curling in a different temperature, so I had to be very careful not to burn the nylon while styling the kanekalon. Balance is the key. I never liked bob hairstyles, but this one looks cute.
I think Mario's hat is one of the most iconic things about him, maybe after the mustache. But I was not sold on the New Boys style, so instead I'm going to make a beret. I will link the pattern that I'm using below, but if you're looking for a free one, I know that Sewing with Joe has one, so we can check him out as well. It's basically some circles and some donuts that you connect together along the respective radii. No, it's not radii, it's circumferences. There we go, I know math, I am a science person. Anyway, I was sure to add one of the cute little tabs that I've made with the logo, and then the beret is done. A pretty simple project. Then I had to go to some class, so I decided to take the shoemaking with me and did some pattern making on the train. I make sure to outline the final pattern that I want to make with a bold pen and cut on the drawn lines to extract the 2D pattern from the 3D shape. I'm working on a last and sole set that my boyfriend has designed for me, especially for this project, and I would love to share it with you, but I don't think the pattern is finalized yet, though it has been digitized. I still kind of don't know what I'm doing, and I don't like some things about these, but here's how I made these loafers. I traced the pattern onto some brown leather, because Mario's shoes are brown. I think if they were black, they would look a little bit better, because black shoes are the best shoes, but to make sure that we are as much in line with the original as we can for making a girl, I decided to keep them brown. I made sure to trace both the outside and inside of the pattern and cut it out. Of course, there is no shoemaking without OOAK glue. I sort of do things a bit chaotically because I need to let glue dry on both of the mating surfaces for it to work. I start with the toe piece and I will hem the top portion of the top piece, and in the meantime I'm also applying glue on the strap. I'm also cutting some relief notches into the seam allowance of the main piece and applying glue to it so that it has time to dry. Now, with my pointy tweezers, I am pinching and twisting to create these little darts that allow me to hem this curved edge. I squeeze them and pinch them and press them while the glue is drying to make sure that I can get them as flat as possible. I fold in the edges of the straps and also the main piece edge where the toe will eventually go. Now I need to apply glue to the right side of this toe piece, but I don't want to trace with a pen on the nice side of the leather, so I'm just lightly marking the seam allowance with my seam ripper and trimming off the little tabs that we made while hemming the toe. I'm sort of using my nails as a tool here, don't do that. I'm trying to cut these as flush as possible with a sharp X-Acto knife. I finished hemming the main piece and I can now apply glue to the U-shaped place where the toe will end up. I make sure to mark my center point for future reference and hammer the edge a little bit, which I'm not sure if it helps at all, but I'd like to think that it makes it a bit more flat. With the glue dry to touch, I can start rolling the edge of the main piece onto the toe cap so that no glue shows through. Now I will top stitch these edges, which I was able to do on my sewing machine. I finally figured out that the walking foot is okay-ish for leather sewing, but I can't use it for very tiny things because the foot itself has a large surface. I sewed the back seam and I will press it open by gluing the seam allowance down and smacking it with a hammer.
I decided not to line this one because they are not great anyway. I did the lining before because I was hand stitching. This time I did this in the wrong order, so it sucks on anyway, so because I don't care. And the other one looks ugly.
Moving on from the lining issue, I used some tape to temporarily stick the insoles to the last. I then stretched my upper over the last and put some glue on both the leather and the paper sole. It's great to have the seam allowance of the upper marked so that you know, 1, where to put the glue, and 2, how much you need to stretch the upper over the last, because the seam allowance line is where it should hit the edge of the insole.
Alex, you can cut all of this out because it's probably boring and like 2 people are actually interested in this.
For the 2 people that are actually interested in making shoes, what I like to do is use some tweezers to pull fabric onto the sole, and because I'm using a contact glue, it grabs really fast. I do the heel and tip of the toe first, and then ease the rest, making pinches where there's excess fabric. I find that I don't need any extra lasting pliers or whatever, and the tweezers work just fine. This strip was necessary because we designed these with allowance for thick fabrics, and I ended up using a little bit of a thinner leather. But this is an easy fix. I would just have to print the sole at like 98% or something. I just didn't have the time to rerun the printer, and it was easily fixable. For the final glue up, I just smear everything with the Yoo-hoo glue and press them into the soles.
I also redid this one because it was hella ugly. Yeah! Okay, they have some time to dry. Let's try to pull the lasts, which I hope I don't pull the hole anymore. Okay, I need to make the lasts split their own route. Oh, there we go. That was easier than I thought. I think they don't look half bad without the lining, so I'll add extra insoles and they're done, on my part at least.
Psych! After a quick paint job on the soles, the shoes came back to me for some detailing. I decided to add one of these chunky chains that you often see on these types of loafers, and I thought I would add them with some needle and thread, but it was really hard to reach in there, so I ended up gluing them down with super glue. One detail that always elevates an outfit is a purse, so we decided, you know, what a girl Mario would probably have is a Bowser leather purse, so that's what I'm gonna do. I used this gold leather that I used in so many projects before, because I still have so many of this leather left. I quickly made a cardboard pattern which I glued onto the gold leather for stability, and the Bowser accent, I used a little bit of green leather from my leather scrap collection I got, because I am a hoarder of fabric scraps, and leather scraps apparently as well. I punch out some holes for the little attachments that will make the handle, and I tried to hammer them as quietly as possible because it was like 11 p.m.
I can't be doing this, it's very late.
I want to point out here that this is not true.
I attached the rectangle on the top of the front flap and then attached these to the back piece.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Now this will be on top like this. I need to do this on my knee because it's so late, and if I bang it on the table it's gonna be loud, so excuse me for 1 second. But now essentially all we have to do is connect these like so with these. And I think I'm gonna take the lazy way out, do a stitch on the machine, and then just glue it, and no one will know except for everyone who saw this video. But you won't tell anyone, right?
And that I did. I made sure to measure out where the corners are so I could cut in some notches to make the curve.
Dear sister Alexandra, you can cut my rambling out of this video because it is pure nonsense caused by extreme exhaustion and because you are my boss, so give me some time off.
I just want to clarify that I am doing this very willfully, and if I blink suspiciously, it is not because I need help.
It's actually magical when you discover the land of contact glue. I just can't get enough of it.
Contact glue has truly changed the way I approach things.
Now I have to do the same to the front and we're done. Done with the most basic of the construction. I am happy that I managed to sew this with the sewing machine because this is sewing leather and with the gold thread, which let's just say is an achievement.
Sticking the front on was a little bit more difficult because I didn't have as much space to push my fingers into, but all in all, gluing it on instead of stitching it was a great decision. Have you noticed that I like cute and small things?
Cute and small. I love it.
Anyway, the next day I decided to add some more shiny leather in form of a strip along the side that also serves as a connection point for the chain, that is the main long strap, and also for the little handle. I think that this texture of the I think that this texture of the leather kind of resembles the Koopa shell, so I think it works with this design. That design felt a little bit empty, so I added a shiny golden bow, and I think we're done with the purse. To decorate the beret, I added a chain with some pearls and I just stitched it on by hand. Alex and I decided that Mario would not be Mario without the mustache, so in order to sort of sneak it in, but in a believable way, I decided to make one of those photo booth accessories that you hold in your hand. I had one at my prom, actually. I really like that picture. I cut these out from some thin plastic sheets with black adhesive vinyl glued on. To make it more 3D, I used some UV resin.
It will be perfect if it didn't leak. Maybe I can still save it? Or maybe I will bedazzle. No, it's lifted now. Pop off. Queen. Okay, so I just made a separate one. I'm sorry you couldn't see anything. Let me try that again.
In the end, I managed to make one glossy one and one bedazzled one, just for funsies.
Time for the windows to the soul. Someone in the comments said that printing the eyes and adding glass cabochons take away from the whole look, and I like a good challenge, so this time I painted them by hand from scratch. I didn't record it though, so you don't have to believe me. My only proof is that they are not exactly symmetrical. I glued them on a 3D printed base, checked if they work well, and added a drop of resin on top. They don't follow the viewer, so they look a bit weird because of the head curve, and we had to place them near the inner corners for her to look straight. But I love how sparkly they are. Barb printed the coins from the game, and I want to add a gold shine to them. I'm applying a thin layer of metal leaf glue, and when it's dry, I put a metal leaf on top. It sticks like crazy, so be careful not to glue the golden leaves to your hands. They kind of look like these chocolate coins in a golden wrap. With golden pins and jump rings, they make very cute earrings. I like to bend the earrings so they stay more secure in the head and don't fall off by accident. They are huge, but I'm pretty sure they will get lost in the hair. I painted all the edges of the leather in gold and green and added one of the coins as a charm. I couldn't stop myself from adding a fluffy charm made from feathers to resemble Bowser's hair. This one is a bit experimental as I'm using Shrinkadinks for the first time. It's a thermoplastic that when heated changes the size and becomes harder and thicker, so it's perfect for making charms. Let's try it on the doll scale. I sanded one of the sides and traced a mushroom design with watercolor pencils. I used a heat gun to shrink the plastic and the result is alright. I tried one more time with Princess Peach portrait, but this time I used a permanent marker for the outline. It looked really nice, but then I ruined it by applying MSC and paint. It got blurry and doesn't look professional anymore. But I decided to leave it as it is, because the handmade vibe is perfect for a crafty schoolgirl. Maybe she got it from a friend or a crush, and the quality doesn't matter to her.
This is how she turned out. Meet Maria, or Miraya, I guess, since she's made from Mirai. What should we call her? I really enjoyed making this project, and I love making clothes in this style specifically. I know it's not a big fantasy gown, or like aliens, or wizards, or dragons, but I really do enjoy making simple outfits sometimes, and I think, or rather hope, that even though it's not something fantastical, that you still enjoyed watching this being made. I have very fond memories of playing some sort of Super Mario clone online back in like primary school on IT lessons whenever the teacher would let us play games. I actually don't remember if I ever made it to the castle where Princess Peach was held, but I would love to make Maria her own Prince Peach. Or would you prefer to see Luigiana as a companion for Maria?
Do you have any favorite childhood video games? Let us know in the comments down below. Barb, what's your favorite childhood video game? Gex.
Yeah, Gex, maybe. My brother Bear.
I didn't know the English title. Mine is The Sims 2, with all the additions.
Brother Bear.
Yeah, Brother Bear. Yeah, makes sense.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Have an enchanted day, and we'll see you next time. Ciao! This video was made thanks to our Patreons. The biggest credit goes to our top Lost Sister tier supporters, Call Me Ash, Erica Warren, Erin McCoy, and Red X. We also thank our cousin tier Patreons, Brunch, Melissa Navoa, Rinth, Fanov TA, Marilyn McGraw, Aaliyah J, Catherine G, Ashley, Etwell, Michelle Sweeney, Hannah Lemon, Elise Sherbet, Zari, Genevieve Duflock, Amelia Blackwood, Andrea Brigadier, Ghostly Gardens, The Barbie Witch, Bowen, Anxious Kiddo 78, Inca, Stephanie, Tiffany Jeffords, Carajo, Lundy Monk, Katie Baker, Karabu, Siv's Party, Dragonart Customs, Ninja Star Dezino, Victoria, Dream Up, and last but not least, Catherine Naughton. We love you guys.